I'm Heather from booktubes, and today are my top 5 reads of January. I would also like to point out that in January, the Bengals headed to the Super Bowl. This has not happened in my lifetime, so it's very exciting. My husband has been a Bengals fan since he was a child, so like 25 years of him rooting for a terrible team. I started dating him around 12 years ago, no, around 13 years ago. So I got hooked into the fandom then, and so it's been a long 13 years for me as well. But he is over the moon excited that the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl, and I have to rep them, so there's that. So in January, I read 26 books. I DNF'd 8 of them. Of the 18 that I finished, I had 10 5-stars. You might feel like that's high, but 1, I don't care. 2, I really just kind of disagree with the idea that only your favorites of all time can be 5 stars. For me, 5 stars is I loved everything about this book. Like, what you want from me? I really enjoyed my experience, that I have no dings. Like, even things that I'm like, you might not like this, it did not bother me. It's a 5-star. And I will also refer you to the 8 DNFs. I don't read a lot of books that I don't like. It's just how it works, okay? Okay. So the first one I want to talk about is Hitting the Wall, which is Stonecut County #1 by Cate Wells. I was so into this book. There were so many. I feel like the very beginning, even though she had me completely hooked, I feel like I would have DNF'd if I didn't know I love this author. Like, I trust this author, because the beginning of this book was so stressful for me anyways. You have a teen girl who went to a bonfire. She got drunk. He got drunk. He's like 22, 24, something like that at this point. And she was 17. He didn't know who she was. He was told that she was from another town and was a hairdresser over there and stuff. So he was definitely led to believe that she was an adult. But, and they have sex, and the condom breaks, and she gets pregnant. When a rumor goes around that she's pregnant by him, he doesn't hear about this rumor, okay? So he has no idea. He had broken up with his girlfriend and stuff, and then she got back with him like the next day. So there's like all these different circumstances. So when the rumor goes around, his family and like the chief of police and all these people, because he's like from the rich family and he's the sheriff's deputy, they come and they basically run her out of town. And they're like, you know, it would be really unfortunate if you decide to stick with this story. Your grandfather will lose his job, he'll lose his trailer, you know, just, it was terrible. It was so stressful. It was terrible. So she goes back to her drug addict mother in another state, yada, yada, yada. She has the baby. And then the first like couple chapters are big time jumps. So you get, the first chapter is them confronting her. The second chapter is already years later or something like that. But so she has their daughter. She's still living with the drug addict mother who has men in all the time, and it isn't a safe environment. Their daughter is autistic and nonverbal for the most part, but she will talk to her mom some, but really not all at school or anything, and things aren't going well. There's a bully at school. There's all sorts of things that the mom really feels like she needs a different situation, and what can she do? There's like nothing she can do, right? But then she gets the idea to go back and live in her grandpa's trailer. He has passed, and even though she never wants to go back to that place, she could save up enough money, all of the things, all the reasons why we do what we do, right? He then has like a super stressful scene where he's saving a baby that is being endangered, and it is stressful. It does turn out okay. Don't worry about it, because you know me, that would be it. No. And then he sees her walking alongside the road, and he's never forgotten her, even though he has no idea who she was, never found out she was underage, literally never found anything out, right? And she and her little girl are walking alongside the road, and the little girl is the spitting image of his sister, who is also autistic. So when he finds out about it, he's actually really good with her, because he already has experienced this growing up, which the mom, she didn't even know. She had no idea. And then it's just like him being so protective and wanting to take care of them, and her being like, I don't trust you. I don't ever want to see your family again. Like, all these things. And it is a wild ride. I know you're like, that sounds terrible. I understand. But I'm telling you, it was such a good book. You know I don't like emotional. You know I don't like stressful. You know that I am not typically going to recommend these types of books. And when I tell you she pulls it off so well, the overall book is not necessarily stressful, although it's definitely there. You get this rich sheriff's deputy who is finding out that his world is not what he thought it was. The sheriff is under investigation for corruption and for selling like black market weapons, and there's all these things happening, and it's such an interesting human study of like, why didn't you come to me, why didn't you tell me? It's like, because you would have believed them. You spend Thanksgiving at their house. Like, what are you talking about? You would have found a reason to excuse it. You're part of the problem, even though you would never do the things that these other people are being accused of, right? And it's just very interesting. I loved their daughter. I loved how she felt like a real kid. I loved the kind of insight into parenting and parenting with so much love, but also it's such a struggle. No matter what, it's such a struggle. Parenting is hard. If it's not hard, you're probably not doing a very good job, right? So I loved everything about this book. I loved it so much. I loved them. I loved it. I don't know what to tell you. I wouldn't read it if you wrecked it to me, but please, please read it because it's so good. The next one that I want to recommend is the second book in the series. It came out in January. A lot of times I won't rec multiple books by the same author or anything, but these two books were the highlight of my month. They were my favorite reads of the whole month, and so I really want to include both, and I can, so I am. That is Against a Wall, Stonecut County #2 by Casey Wells. This is the brother of the love interest in the first book, so he's also from the rich family. It's his romance with the girl that he's always wanted, but he was also her high school bully. So he's definitely a prankster. He's definitely, somebody who does these things and doesn't necessarily mean them mean-spirited. Sometimes he did. She was best friends with his sister and dropped them without him knowing why, and just really, he was angry and lashed out a lot. But she is in a bad situation. Her longtime boyfriend dumped her and still works at her coffee shop that is owned by her dad, but she runs. And her dad runs the newspaper, and he's the one who exposed the police chief with this black market weapons racket that he's running. And she knew that her dad would get a lot of pushback, so she put her name on the article before it went to print. So the trial is happening and things are escalating. She's not necessarily safe, right? Hi. So I just wanted to add that there is a content warning because the police chief's wife is dying of cancer, and that is love interest. It's his mom's best friend of like their entire lives. And so the mom really doesn't like her because her best friend's dying of cancer and you're going after her husband, right? So, and also that's a big reason why the town is also having an issue with it, because obviously that's very difficult. So there is a big content warning. She's definitely fading and not doing well. Well, there's a hunting accident and she gets shot by one of his clients. That's how he finally gets close proximity to her, because he's like carrying her and walking with her, and they're like hours away from the cars and just all these things, but he's very protective of her, and she's just like, is this blood loss? I don't know what's happening. Why is this happening? But he has literally always loved her and is just like losing his mind, right? So then afterwards, he finds out about the threats against her, and people keep being like, you shot her on purpose and stuff. And he's just like, what is wrong with these people? Why would they even think that? So he suggests fake dating. It will fix their problems. And also they start off the fake dating with a kiss, because her ex-boyfriend is so condescending. He's the worst. So they're fake dating, and he makes so many mishaps. He's such a bro. And he's dumb, and he makes a lot of mistakes, and also just like doesn't understand how other people are taking things. It's just very, like, I would not like him if you described him to me at all, and I ended up loving him so much. This book made me so happy. It's a lot less stressful than the first book. I read the whole thing on release day. It was the highlight of my month. I was so happy reading it. It was so good. It was so good. And just some of the things, him defending her, him protecting her her being like, no, you're doing it wrong. Just all the things. I loved it. I loved it so much. And yeah, Kate C. Wells is a author that I absolutely fell in love with last year, and I'm making my way through her backlist, and I don't want it to be done. I don't want to run out, so I can't recommend her enough. Like, I love, 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 love her work. Next, I have The 100,000 Kingdoms, which is Inheritance Trilogy #1 by N.K. Jemisin. This is an adult fantasy. There is a romance subplot, but it's not a romance book. And in this world, the gods, there are 3 main gods, right? And they're siblings and also lovers and also all the things because they're gods, right? Well, the god of night and darkness and the god of sun and day were together for a long, long time before their sister came, and then all of their children, right? The god of day ended up killing the sister goddess and imprisoning the Lord of Darkness and all of his children. There was a big war, and for a long, long, long time, the god of darkness and his children have been imprisoned by the ruling family who worship the sun god, and they are treated horribly, right? They're treated like slaves and just constant misuse and abuse, and it's a terrible thing. So you have that, and also the ruling family, it's all based on like blood and if you're full blood or half blood or quarter blood, but everybody has to serve. There's a lot of things with that, right? And the heir of the ruling family had turned her back on it, had left, she got disowned, she went to a small country, married for love, all these things. And that was our main character's mother. Her mother was killed, and she was told to come and compete to be heir of the ruling family. She's like, this is not legit. Like, nobody's gonna let me rule. There's other things going on. And she kind of falls in with the gods right away, and there's all these things happening. She's trying to figure out who to trust. She's trying to figure out a way to survive this competition. It's not a competition like do these 3 tasks and the winner. It's nothing like that. All right, I got interrupted. I don't know where I was, but it's not like an active competition. It's just like almost a popularity contest. And she kind of falls in with some of the servants and the fallen gods, and also has a romance with the Lord of Darkness, but doesn't know if she can trust him because he kills anybody in his snare pretty brutally. So it was so good. It was so good. Definitely some content warnings in there. You're gonna have to see torture and slavery and mistreatment and abuse, but I didn't find it super heavy. It definitely wasn't as heavy as the 5th season. Unpopular opinion, I do think that the Broken Earth trilogy is on a skill level, a technicality level, better. Like, her skill has improved as a writer, and plots and masterminds, all that, it's improved. However, 100,000 Kingdoms is more my preference. It's something that I would be more likely to reach for and enjoy and recommend. So know that when people say the Broken Earth trilogy is better, that's probably true. However, 100,000 Kingdoms is something I enjoyed more, even though I've given all the books 5 stars because they are brilliant. So know that. Next, I want to talk about The Enforcer, which is the family #2. It's really the family #3, but one's a prequel, by Katrina Jackson. This is a lighter mafia romance series. It takes place with the mafia actually over in Italy. You don't have to worry about the characters so much. There's not so many content warnings. There's not so much stress. Like, your characters are going to be fine. You don't have to watch them go through terrible things. I enjoy that. Also, there's like the people in their organization are good. It's not like having to work around the head of the family or anything like that. So this one is the 3rd family member to go to Italy, but she is not there randomly. She is there with the character from the 1st book, looking for the character from the 2nd book who ran away from her wedding and has not been returning texts or anything. So the Council of Aunties is like, she's not responding, you need to go find her. So they do. Right before they leave, she has broken up with her polyamorous relationship because they wanted her to have a kid, and she thought that she was very clear that that was never ever going to happen, and she's very upset about it, and it's kind of cut them out. So she goes to Italy. She and the first one walk into the restaurant because they're following like the location of their sister's iPhone. So they all end up there with the different mafia ones, and the enforcer is like this big guy. He considers himself to be dumb. He, you know, isn't the thinker. He wants people to tell him what to do, that type of thing. And he is just like captivated by her. He thinks that she is fierce and funny and is just very into her, right? Things happen and they're like, okay, for safety, we need to break up. We need to go. So he takes her back to his family. And it's funny because there's like a million steps, and that's a big part of her struggle. He's kind of submissive and he likes pain, and they kind of explore that. And I loved the two of them. They're both bigger characters, and neither one of them wants kids ever. He feels like he's letting his family down by not living up to his mom's expectations. She also struggles with that with the Council of Aunties. I really enjoyed it. She's very much the take charge, protect her younger sisters and cousins, and, you know, do all these things, and they just vibe so well. And also she gets a break from kind of her life and all the things that she's doing. I really like this series. I was honestly so sad that the next full-length book isn't out yet. I'm like very bummed that I'm caught up because I enjoyed all of them so much. So I think I'm going to try some of Katrina Jackson's other series because I really enjoy her writing, her characters, all of the things, and I'm sad that I'm caught up on this. And then lastly, I have The Girl in the Mist by Kristen Ashley, which is a romantic thriller, my first ever romantic thriller. Look at me. So we have a famous author, and she was a celebrity. She was on a long time running television show, I think. And then she wrote a massively popular book, right? So she's a best-selling author. She also has other pen names that people don't know about. So she's still actively writing, even though most people think she only has one book, right? And she has a stalker, and the stalker has actually kidnapped a couple women and is raping them and forcing them to act out scenes and all this stuff to try and get to her. And so obviously that is very taxing on her mentally, and the FBI is involved, and of course our favorite rock chick organizations are involved. And so they send her here, and she buys this house on the lake. The lake is always misty, and the town is very small and very quiet. The chief of police is completely incompetent, and it's a big problem. But she moves in there, and there is a little girl, like an 8-year-old girl, that is missing, and the little girl does end up being found brutally murdered. And so things are happening with that, plus her stalker. And then it turns out her neighbor is an ex-FBI profiler who's like the best of the best, and he is like gorgeous, and she can't believe that she's actually interested in sleeping with him because it's been forever since she was interested in sleeping with anybody. I didn't love some of the language about being turned on and stuff. I was just like, no, that doesn't work. But so he comes off as very intimidating, and his teen daughter comes over to see her, and the teen daughter is grounded and stuff, and she's like, well, I don't agree with that. It was good times. And then he has 2 sons who help him, and they are struggling, going through this mentally. And so basically she feeds them. She feeds them almost every day, and then they kind of start dating, but they're kind of putting off sleeping together because he doesn't feel like that's a good idea when he needs to be keeping her safe and also looking for the murder of this little girl and all these things. Then somebody else is killed, and so the stalker gets found, but there's the serial killer happening, and he's trying to figure it out, and this serial killer is definitely playing with him. He's definitely there to try and match wits with him, and so obviously that's a burden. And then her adult daughters roll in. Hi. Quick update, I forgot to add that there is a content warning for revenge porn. So I forgot that. There's my cat, took over my chair. Ouch, why are you scratching me? Ow. So there's that, revenge porn. and it was so good. I really enjoyed it. The pacing was different from a lot of her other romantic suspense books, but one, Kristen Ashley, the covers, I feel like it looks like women's fiction. It looks like something I would not be interested in. One is usually very focused on the couple, very focused on dialogue. I really enjoy how you get to actively see on page so much of the development of them liking each other. Why would they care about each other besides the fact that they're hot? You get to see that development on page, which is one of the reasons why she's one of my top favorite authors. And then also, like, there are steamy scenes in these books, multiple steamy scenes in every Kristen Ashley book. So I know it doesn't look like that maybe, and that's not true. So I really enjoy this. I do kind of feel like it was a dark romance gone wrong, and I was a little bit sad while still not being able to be team dark romance in this one. It was really enjoyable. I hope she puts out more in this series. I would love to read more. It took me 3 days of reading it. It's a longer book, and I was just so happy reading it. I didn't want it to end. I was happy chugging along. It had taken me an entire week to read it. I would have been perfectly content. So that should tell you a few things about how much I enjoyed it, because I'm not a patient person. So that's it. Those were my very favorite books of January. Let me know your favorite read of January, or if you read or loved any of these. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.